Hi, I'm Kate Bridge, and this is my literacy memoir. I included two actual pictures of myself just because they were the easiest accessible from being at school, and most of my pictures are at home. The top picture is me when I was probably about two, reading a book, obviously. And the bottom picture is a recent picture. I was in Mexico last summer and reading a book most of the trip. So if you couldn't find me, I was usually in a chair reading a nice book. So getting into it, my earliest literacy experiences started probably in preschool and kindergarten. I don't remember too much about actually learning how to read or write, but things I do remember started in preschool. I mostly remember that, first of all, I went to Miniland Academy, which is just a preschool, and I had two teachers, Miss Tracy and Mr. Jeff. And one of them, or maybe it was like an assistant teacher who came in sometimes, she spoke Spanish a little bit. So she taught us the numbers, the days of the week, and colors, which is why I included a little hot air balloon that says Rojo underneath. Um, it's sort of like reading because she would usually have the word up there and then we would have to pronounce it correctly, or like she would point to one and we would have to say, oh, that's rojo, or that's amarillo, or whatever the color was, which was super cool and something that I still remember to this day. In kindergarten, I went to this school called Hillside, and I had two teachers for kindergarten named Mrs. Harris and Mrs. Mulholland. And something I remember in there is learning how to write my name and learning basic words. So, for example, right above the Hillside Hawks little thing at the bottom, to the top left of that, there's a little picture of a paper with a drawing box and some writing lines underneath. Those writing lines really helped me to like keep track of where my letters went down to and how big they should be and that kind of thing. So I thought that was really helpful. And then this was a super cool activity that I enjoyed because I like art. So drawing a picture and then writing a little caption for it underneath was like something really cool to me, and I still remember. I think my parents have maybe a couple of those, maybe in my basement in a little memory box or something, but it would take a while to find, and I'd have to be at home for that. Um, I don't remember my first book ever, and actually, I asked my mom and dad, and they didn't remember either. But I do remember The Rainbow Fish and The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and I know both of those books are very basic, but I remember both of those, and The Very Hungry Caterpillar is probably one of my favorites when I was young because there was all different kinds of food in there, and I just would point out one and pick out what it was. So a strawberry, and I'd point out a strawberry, something like that. I don't exactly remember getting read aloud to by my parents. I'm sure they did. I just don't remember it anymore. But I do remember that something I really loved to do was read aloud to my dad once I got a little bit older. I mean, earliest literacy experiences, a little young for this, but once I started to be able to read, I definitely remember reading to my dad, which is why I included this little picture at the bottom right. Um, I would always read to him, and usually it was Junie B. Jones books, and he would always ask me questions. Oh, I didn't hear you. Like, what happened here? And I would have to like tell him what happened. And I think looking back on it, those were more comprehension checks more so than anything, but it was still super cool. Looking back on it, it makes it even cooler that he, I don't know, pretended to be so interested in a Junie B. Jones book. So, elementary school experiences with literacy. In elementary school, I specifically remember third grade because we had reading buddies. This was when the fifth graders came into our class and we got paired up with them. They would read to us, but also help us to learn how as well. So maybe like we would read a book to them, like just a simple one. Or, I mean, third grade, we're a little bit older, so we could read a little bit better. And then they would also read more like chapter books. So like every week they would read a chapter and we would read a book to them or something like that. It was really exciting. My reading buddy was named Ada. I still remember her. It was super exciting because the big kids got to come in and just kind of made it more like of an activity rather than like a chore to read. So I really liked that. And then another time I remember was in fifth grade. And I remember this because of two things actually. One, I loved my teacher. Her name was Mrs. Champney. And the other, We learned a lot about punctuation and grammar, and I really liked the way she taught us because she gave us a lot of videos and examples to work with. Like her lessons were always super interactive. I don't know, it just really helped me remember a lot of the stuff we learned even to this day. So some teachers that were influential to me. Something actually negative happened to me in fourth grade. I had a really tough teacher in fourth grade. I included a picture. It's at the bottom right hand corner of the textbooks. So my fourth grade teacher really liked history, I guess, or maybe fourth grade for my school was mostly history based. Um, I really loved my teacher, like I said, but she taught us right from the textbook. I remember a lot of our homework because we always had to do so much, and even my parents, like I remember coming home and telling them what homework I had, and they were kind of shocked at all the stuff that I had to do. So every day, for example, we were expected to probably read between 1 and 3 chapters of the book, and then we would have multi-page worksheets to go along with it. So some of those worksheets were fill in the blanks, which was exact quotation from a textbook. Or other times it was reading comprehension. So you read the chapter and then answer these 5 questions about what happened in the chapter or something like that. All the textbooks we read were history based as well. So I mean, history has always been a harder subject for me, so that really didn't help much. To this day, I still struggle with history, and reading textbooks is also pretty difficult for me still. I'm not sure if it's because there's just a lot of words on the page, so I feel maybe overwhelmed by that. I do notice that even when I'm reading books, I don't usually gravitate towards books that have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, maybe 1,000 pages, just because I think the sight of a very thick book overwhelms me a little bit. I know I'm a slow reader, and I don't know, reading comprehension is a little bit difficult for me. So the smaller books were always a little bit better. So I included this Junie B. Jones as a beauty shop guide book because Junie B. Jones books were always my favorite. I loved them. I read them all the time, especially this as a beauty shop guy one. I've read that over and over. I can't even count. Countless times, literally. I thought it was really cool because she was relatable. She was a very quirky girl. I remember some pages she would misspell things or mispronounce things, and I just thought it was cool about how she would tell a story of how so and so corrected her. I would say that my elementary experiences were overall pretty positive, except for the whole textbook situation. So for middle school and high school literacy experiences, in middle school I really liked to read, but as high school came along, I started getting reading less, just because I feel like I didn't really have much time, and I sort of made it become less of a priority for me, which is why I included this little happy face to sad face picture down there, just to kind of show how it changed for me. In middle school, my English teacher had us read a book every class for 15 minutes, usually whatever book we were studying. So, for example, Number the Stars, which I included a little picture of as well. At first, I didn't want to read it at all, but that was 15 minutes. You kind of don't have anything else to do, so you start reading the book. And 15 minutes is not a long time, so for students like me who are slow or get overwhelmed easily by having to read a lot at one time, this was pretty good for me. Once I got into it, I really did like it. So then I put a series of unfortunate events book here. That was definitely my favorite books in middle school. I loved being able to go to the library and pick some out. It became something I really looked forward to. In middle school, I also had a negative experience with a teacher. We had a resource period where we would go and do our homework, and normally we were allowed to talk if we wanted to, if we didn't have any homework, or just kind of play like a quiet card game. But reading became more of a consequence of bad actions, actually, for that class. If our teacher had to tell us to be quiet one too many times, our punishment was reading and sitting quietly for the whole block. And it became where every class for the first 30 minutes, we would be forced to read. You weren't allowed to have any homework out. You had to have a book. And if you didn't, she had some that she would give you. So I think that really kind of took the fun out of it for me. It made me not want to read at all because I felt like I was being punished for something maybe I wasn't a part of, or I don't know, reading should be fun, not forced upon me, I feel like. So again, my attitude changed. So college experiences with literacy, some courses that have stood out to me were English 105 and English 215. Um, really love English classes, as I've sort of said before, so those were definitely a little bit more intense than what I was used to, but I did really well in English 105 and maybe not as well in English 215. I don't really think I have a favorite book since being in college that like I read, but some of the assignments I really loved were through teaching courses. So in Education 245, we had to create a classroom layout, which I included a little picture of my little classroom layout. I really liked it. I felt like it was something that would actually help me with my future, and it was super interesting and fun to be able to plan out what I hope my classroom will look like someday. So the teacher that had a negative impact on me was an English teacher, English 215 professor. And I had a negative experience because I feel like I'm a really good writer and I've always done well and gotten good grades on papers and stuff like that. So when I wrote a paper for this class and received a D, it was kind of shocking and sort of heartbreaking to me. It made me take a step back and think about what I'm doing wrong. And he didn't really give much like detail of why he gave me that grade, so it was a little bit confusing for me. So somebody that had a positive impact on me was my Education 245 teacher, Dr. Hastings. She's to me an amazing professor who makes her students feel involved and cared for on a personal and educational level. She was always enthusiastic and encouraging, so I just really liked her. I hope that I get to be like her someday. I feel like since elementary school and high school and my literacy experience kind of have gone really downhill because I don't really feel like I have much time to read for pleasure. So, some meaningful experiences with reading and writing for me mostly have to do with reading. Um, Two books, like I've said before, that I'm reading, I think I said before, are Girl Wash Your Face. I just finished that one, and Girl Stop Apologizing. These are self-help books, but they've helped me get through some tough situations myself. So I picked two quotes that I found that go along with the books, that are from the books. So from Girl Wash Your Face, the quote I picked was, "When you really want something, you will find a way. When you don't really want something, you'll find an excuse." And that really helped me, I don't know, stop making excuses for things that like I want to do. But if I really want to do it, I'll find a way. So if you make excuses for something, then there's a reason why, like you don't want to do it. And then from Girl Stop Apologizing, the quote I picked was, "It's time to stop apologizing for who you are, and it's time to become who you were made to be." And I really liked that one as well. That one kind of really stuck with me. So then something for writing for this class, or for this experience, something meaningful. Um, in high school, I did a dual enrollment English class, and we had to write a research paper on any topic we chose. My topic was teen suicide, and I felt like it was really meaningful to me because that topic is really deep and honestly not talked about a lot. And it was really interesting to me and really cool and really relieving actually to be able to see people's like situations that they're going through and try to understand. And it's really difficult to do that because personally I haven't been in that situation. So it was really eye-opening, I guess, to see what other people have to deal with. So some painful experiences with reading and writing. Again, these are pretty much the same as I've said before. My writing experience was when I got a D and I really didn't understand why. And reading experiences were because just kind of basically the same thing, the textbook thing. But something else is that I really have a hard time reading as it is. So when I have to read out loud to a class, it makes me really worried and get really stressed out. So that's been something that I guess would be a painful experience. So I'm not exactly sure how I would identify myself as a reader and a writer. Um, Currently, I am reading Girl Stop Apologizing, which is the self-help book that's the sequel to Girl Wash Your Face. Really like it. It's going pretty good for me. um, what my goals are for now. I would like to read, well, a goal, I should say, for myself that I've set, a SMART goal. For reading is to read a chapter, well, at least a chapter, 2 to 3 times a week before bed for fun. And then another thing, these kind of go hand in hand with each other. A writing goal I have involves a book that I recently bought called 400 Writing Prompts, which I actually have a picture here, where I've decided to write a response to one of those prompts 1 to 2 times a week before bed for fun. These two goals will help me go to bed at night. I have a really tough time falling asleep as it is, so being able to read a self-help book, which I feel really does help me and helps me deal with problems that may be going on in my life, gives solutions like from like different point of views and stuff. And then also being able to write, just kind of they give you prompts like, I mean, anything. Like if it's something as simple as if you could have dinner with a celebrity or somebody who has died, like who would you have dinner with? Just getting basic thoughts out of my brain on a piece of paper before I go to bed is really helpful for me. I think it will benefit me and kind of settle my brain down before I go to bed. I enjoy reading and writing when it's for fun. When it's something that I'm like being forced to do, I really don't appreciate it as much. So it's a little bit difficult for me. I would love to get back into a place like in my life where I can love reading and love writing and have all the time in the world to do both of those things. But for now, while I'm in college, I feel like it's just a little bit difficult since we do have a lot of textbook reading and other things like that. When I graduate, I feel like the odds of my reading and writing will, like love for reading and writing, will increase again, and I'll get that back. I'm starting to get that back now with the two self-help books. So as long as I find books, it doesn't really matter what you read, as long as you're reading something, I feel like. So that's my plan. And how my experiences, oh my gosh, a typo, I'm so sorry. How my experiences have prepared me to be a teacher. Something I definitely do not want to share with my students in the future is the whole textbook method. I would love to use a textbook and refer back to a textbook, but from my own experience in 4th grade, I don't want to ruin reading for my students, like sort of what happened to me. I would really want my students to understand how to use a textbook, and the material we cover in class will probably go along with the textbook depending on what exactly it is that we have to learn or teach and for the students to learn. But I don't want to rely on it, and I don't want students to feel like they have to rely on it either, because comparing a textbook to a book that somebody likes to read for pleasure, they're very different pieces of writing, and I just don't want them to get a negative connotation with reading because of a textbook. And to end on a positive note, something I really do want to share with my students, I hope to have the same impact with my future students as my education professors have and my 5th grade grammar teacher. The people that like I've spoken about already just made me really interested and excited to learn new things. Their classes were always super interactive and fun, and I don't know, those activities kind of make me remember things. Another thing I've noticed about my favorite teachers is that the professors and teachers that I find to be like ones that I remember most are ones that got personal with their students and really showed that they cared. So that's what I hope to pass on to my students, and I hope I'll be a teacher that my students look up to as well one day.